Hello. Question. What is it that gives us human beings the greatest joy and happiness in life? Answer: relationships. We human beings, we crave relationships. And given that truth that we crave relationships, why do we struggle as often and we fail to forge and foster the kinds of relationships we ideally would like to have? There's a reason. And the reason we fail, and the reason we're not so successful in forging and fostering the relationships that we so desire, it is because we're really using the wrong tools. And so I want to share with you today a model that I believe provides you with the tool that will help us create, nurture, grow, and mature the kinds of relationships we ideally would like to have. Now, when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about relationships in a very broad way, but in this particular case, I want to focus particularly on what we tend to refer to as significant romantic relationships. Because the vast majority of us, if not all of us, that's the thing that we truly, truly want. So let me share with you how to get to that place we ideally would like to be, using the four-dimensional love concept. Four-dimensional love says that relationships are really based on four Greek words that I use, the first of which is eros, from which we get our English word erotica. Physical love is what I refer to it as, and in the model I label it physical touch. Second is philia. Most of us are familiar with the term Philadelphia. It is philia, meaning friendship love. And I use it in this particular context as psychosocial engagement. The third Greek word that I use in this model is storge, affectionate love, which I refer to as affectionate attachment. And finally, the last love type is agape, unconditional love, that I refer to as spiritual fulfillment. Four-dimensional love says that when individuals come into relationships, once again, particularly in the case of romantic relationships, they come in usually on the basis of visual attraction. Boy sees girl kind of a thing, if you may. And so let me use that here to label this male as Jack and this female as Jill, just to add a little flesh to the bones, shall I? And so four-dimensional love says that when Jack meets Jill, usually it's a response of, oh, la, 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 la. Just purely on visual attraction. Four-dimensional love says that if Jack and Jill decide to actually come into a relationship, they come in at this first dimension that I refer to as selfish love. Why selfish love? Because good old boy Jack here, when he meets Jill, first and foremost, he comes in at his most basal point, really focusing on physical love. Jack meets Jill. He is primarily interested in holding her hand, exchanging kisses with her, and if she would permit him to engage her sexually. Jill, on the other hand, she comes in at a place that I refer to as psychosocial engagement. Jill comes in at a place of not so much eros, physical love. She comes in at a place at philia, friendship love. What does Jill want? Jill wants a friend. She wants stability, reliability, trust, trustworthiness. Jill is looking for a friend. And so Jack and Jill are now in this first dimension of this selfish place. Four-dimensional love says if this relationship continues to grow, if they grow it, it will grow to this next place that I refer to as exploratory love, where they experience storge love or affectionate attachment. Why do I call it storge love, or why do I call it exploratory love? I call it exploratory love because Jack, with his selfish self over here, recognizes that if he's going to get what he wants, what he needs, and what he desires, he's going to need to explore Jill's needs, wants, and desires, what brings her joy and what causes her pain. Jill and her selfish self, she recognizes that if she's going to get the friend she wants, she's going to need to explore Jack's needs, wants, and desires, what brings him joy and what causes him pain. Four-dimensional love says that this relationship matures beyond this second dimension, it will move to the third, which I refer to as contractual love. Why contractual love? Contractual love because Jack, who started all about being selfish, but now having explored Jill's needs, wants, and desires, Jack gets to a place where he says, Jill, baby girl, if you want a friend, I can be your friend if you let me touch you. I can become psychosocially engaged if you let me touch you. And Jill says, baby, not a problem. If you want to touch me, you can do that, but you would have to be my friend. So Jack and Jill have just now entered this contract that says, I'll do for you if you do for me. But if you don't do for me, bye. I'm gone. See you later. Four-dimensional love says the vast majority of relationships, marriages included, never get beyond this place of contractual love. Somehow we buy into the idea that marriage and significant other relationships is a contract, that somehow it gets negotiated on the basis of needs, wants, or desires. That if I do for you, you'll do for me, but if you don't do for me, then I don't need to do for you. And four-dimensional love says that is actually the basis for causing relationships to go awry. And if we are to get better in our relationships, because we move away from this concept of selfish or even exploratory or contractual love and move to a higher place, a place that I refer to as spiritual fulfillment, the place where virtues of peace and kindness and gentleness, they are fostered and forged. Four-dimensional love says we find those places at a place of agape unconditional love that I refer to as covenant love, spiritual fulfillment. If Jack gets to this place of covenant love and spiritual fulfillment, Jack says to Jill, baby, I love you. There's nothing that you can do to cause me to love you, nor is there anything that you can do to cause me not to love you. I love you because of my capacity to love, because of my kindness, because of my patience, because of my gentleness, because of my willingness to give and forgive. You become the recipient of my love because I am love. Jill responds by saying, baby, that's good. Me too. And Jill can get to that place of agape, unconditional covenant love by herself practicing those virtues and those spiritual qualities and characteristics of kindness and patience and gentleness and forgiveness unconditionally. Four-dimensional love says that in order for Jack and Jill to get to this place of covenant love, they must exercise those spiritual virtues. And to the degree that they continue to do that, they remain at that place of agape unconditional covenant love. But if at any point in time they choose not to practice those virtues, they choose not to exercise those qualities and characteristics of high spirituality, then this relationship begins to experience what I refer to as recession. It begins to break down. The principle of recession here says the last thing in is the first thing out. And so as it begins to break down, and let's assume for a minute that it breaks down first with Jill, and you can hear Jill say as it breaks down, Jack, my love for you is no longer unconditional, but I'll still let you touch me. And for Jack, if the relationship breaks down similarly, you can hear Jack say, and Jill, baby girl, my love for you is no longer unconditional, but I'll still take care of you. A four-dimensional love says that if one of them, it only takes one to make a thing go right contrary to popular belief, particularly when covenant love is at play. It only takes one of them to fix this by once again engaging in these spiritual qualities of patience and kindness and gentleness and forgiveness for this relationship to really go well. But if neither one of them chooses to get back to this place by exercising those principles and qualities, this relationship will continue to recede. And as it does, it will go back to exploratory love. Jill can be heard to say, Jack, my love for you is no longer unconditional. And don't you dare touch me, even though I understand what your needs, wants, and desires are. And Jill says, and Jack says, my love for you is no longer unconditional. I'm not going to take care of you, even though I understand what your needs, wants, and desires are. This relationship continues to break down and recede and experience recession. It will go from exploratory love all the way back to selfish love. And as it does, Jill can be heard to say, Jack, my love for you is no longer unconditional. Don't you dare touch me, even though I understand what your needs, wants, and desires are. But I still want you to take care of me. And Jack can be heard to say, baby girl, my love for you is no longer unconditional. I'm not going to take care of you, even though I understand what your needs, wants, and desires are. But I still want that roll in the hay. If something isn't done to correct this situation and bring it back to this place of agape unconditional love, Jack and Jill in all likelihood will check out of this relationship only to find themselves starting another all over again. Four-dimensional love. Four-dimensional love says that we have the wherewithal, we have the capacity as human beings to love unconditionally, to be patient when another isn't, to be kind when another isn't, to be gentle and giving and forgiving even though another chooses not to. Why? Because we have the capacity. We are love. Love does not exist outside of us and controls us. We're the ones fully in control of that. And to the degree that we are, the relationship changes first for us and then for everyone else around us. And so the power of four-dimensional love says, get to the place of agape, unconditional love, where you're able to love, placing no condition on your love for another human being. Just recently, a study was published, 2012, a study was published based on a research that started in 1938 at Harvard University, 75 years and still running. The book was written to talk about this research where 268 men started at what was at the time Harvard College. And researchers were following them, and the question was, what is it that really brings us happiness in life? What is it that we really want? What is it that brings us joy and fulfillment? And they followed these 268 men for now more than 75 years. And recently in the publication, Dr. George Valiant note, he said, it is fascinating what has come out of this 75 years of research. What is it that people really want? Valiant writes, there are two pillars of happiness. One is love. The other is finding a way of coping with life that does not push love away. What are you saying, Dr. Valiant? What I'm saying is love is it. Not only do we want it, but when we are able to know how to get it, if we can find ways in which not to push it away, that is the secret to successful, not just relationships, but to successes in life. But he goes on, he says, second, what we have found from these 75 years of research, the 75 years and $20 million expended on the grant study points to a straightforward 5-word conclusion: happiness is love. Full stop. Happiness is love. Full stop. So I invite you to come to a fuller understanding of what love truly is. But not so much eros, physical love, not so much philia, friendship love, not so much storge, affectionate love, but more so agape, unconditional love. Get to the place where your love for someone is based on this concept of covenant love. I love you because of me, my capacity to love. You then become the recipient of the love that I am. So that even when you are not patient, I am patient for you. Even when you're not kind, I am kind for you. Even when you are not giving, I am giveness for you. Even when you need forgiveness, I forgive because of my capacity to forgive on the basis of no condition for my love. And so I invite you not only to understand love, but to live it out at its highest possible level. And that, my friends, would be at the level of agape, unconditional, covenant love. Thank you very kindly.